Well, I've just got a couple of announcements to make, and then they're all yours, Julian. So
Thank you.
one thing is that we've been invited, which I think I mentioned once before, by Coffee Clatch. Excuse me, Clatch Coffee in, I guess they're in Torrance.
Yeah.
Right on the corner of PCH and Torrance Boulevard. Daniel, the manager of the place, has been talking to us about showing photos. And what he'd like to do, Emily Rydell went to talk to him the other day. And what he'd like is about 5 people at a time with either 1 or 2 photos for a period of about 2 months. And so if anybody is interested in doing that, let Emily know. And her email is emily.riddle, emily.riddell@att.net. And we'll go ahead and put that in the, what do you call it? The newsletter as well. Okay.
Aaron, what are the size restrictions?
Don't know. I don't know exactly what the terms are. I mean, there's all sorts of questions I've got, size, what kind of frames, do they have to match? Should they be or should they not be for sale? If they're for sale, is Clatch Coffee going to take a royalties on it? I just have all sorts of questions and I don't know. I'm hoping that Emily found that out. She was going to go talk to him and see how he wanted to work it. So I need to talk to her about it, but we'll figure it out. I think he's very flexible on stuff. I know that in talking to him. So I think I assume it's going to work out. But so if anybody's interested, email Emily Riddle, emily.riddle@att.net, and let her know and ask her questions. She may know. I have not had a chance to talk to her. I just got an email from her, but I knew she was going to go and talk to Daniel about it. So another announcement is the board decided not to go back to the airport in May. So we will take it from there as we've been doing a month at a time. In June, there's only 1 meeting. May will have 2, June only has 1. So I don't know if we'll be going back for that one in June or wait until August, but we'll certainly let you know. And then one last one, if you haven't already done so, please rate the photos on the website. And it's getting near the end of the year. And the longer you wait, the more photos there will be. There's already a bunch of them if you haven't done any of it. So any questions, announcements by anyone?
Yeah, Harry, I wanted to mention that I sent an email out to people whose email I have. We're going to have one of our local in-person meetings, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, the 7th, and it'll be the usual place, Denny's on Western Avenue in San Pedro, or RPV, whichever you want to call it, 9 in the morning. Everybody's invited, show and tell, or just show up. Anyway, so a week from Thursday. Any questions, call me. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm part of a small show, April 20th, in front of the Marmalade restaurant in El Segundo, right off of Sepulveda. And what happened is my friend went to breakfast there and noticed a very nice tent outside and went and spoke to the manager. And so 5 of us will be showing. It'll be art. It'll be art, and I'm the only photographer. So if we're going to be there all day on the 20th, so Wednesday. Please, if anybody's interested, come and have breakfast or lunch and in the restaurant and see our show.
20th of April?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll be there pretty late. We'll be there probably 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So,
And it's a
come on
one,
down
and it's a one-day thing.
one day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great.
And then
Thanks, Phyllis.
Yeah, I have a couple of things you may not know. Remember Nina and the 101 show, the big show that she's had in the past at the electric company and at Gold Gym. In the fall, she's going to be at the old Redondo Beach Library. And she's calling for entries.
By the old Redondo Beach Library, you mean the main library?
No,
No?
not the current one. It was the first one. It faces the ocean, and
Oh,
it's at the end of what's the street starts with a T.
Florence.
Lawrence,
Florence.
Yeah,
oh, at the end
Yeah,
of
Torrance.
Florence, okay.
It's the Veterans Park building now.
Oh, all right, I know where that is. That was the old library?
yeah. You know, the people that were running it as I shouldn't take his time, but the building is empty and it's not being used. And some of our photography friends and art friends are trying to get the Redondo Beach Council to consider having us have a full-time all year art facility for use.
Great,
Shows.
great. Good luck with that. That'd be great. Yeah,
So anybody that knows anything and anybody in the Redondo Beach Council, we're trying to get it passed. They would like something that brings in a lot of revenue, but we're trying to get them to say that this is an art. This would be part of the community. It's more of a community thing with on art. So
okay. Thanks, Phyllis.
Harry, this
All
is
right.
Dave. I did some research and I have meeting room that we can use for our banquets.
wow.
Okay.
We'll talk about it at the next board meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, David. Okay, is that it? Julian, they are yours.
Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of my screen there. I'm going to take you on a trip to Uzbekistan today.
Cool.
So if you've never been to Uzbekistan or even thought about it as a destination, I think by the end of this, you probably will. And what I urge you to do as well is not to go, it's got sand in it, it must be dangerous. It's not. It really is not. Okay. So there's probably a good hour and a half, this or so. So let's amble through Uzbekistan and what I did over there last August. So
I have a question. Where is it
where is it?
exactly?
Let me show you.
Okay.
Actually, that's something maybe I should put in my presentation. Where is it?
Okay, can I just ask one thing? If you're not, everybody should be muted while Julian's talking, unless you're asking a question. So I'd appreciate that.
Oh, it's okay. Right, let's show you where Uzbekistan is then. Let's get Google Maps. So there you go. I guess you can all see my screen. Here we go.
we have it.
So there's Uzbekistan there. So you can see we have Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Iran. So it's Central Asia is where it is, basically. So there we go. You can see the presentation, I'm guessing. So let's take you on a trip to Uzbekistan.
Yes,
Circumnavigating
it's fine,
Uzbekistan.
Julian.
Great, thank you. So a quick background on myself. For those of you that didn't see me last time, I'm born and raised in Salisbury. Salisbury is famous for its beautiful 14th century Gothic cathedral. But if those of you that love classic rock music, then you know Spinal Tap. If you think of Stonehenge, it's about 10 miles north of Salisbury. Salisbury is also famous for its medieval city centre, as well as the cathedral having the world's oldest working clock inside it. I used to work in an office administrating pensions of all things. Seems so long ago now, thankfully. And I picked up my first digital SLR in April 2005, which was, in British terms, a Canon 350D, but I know in American terms, it's a Canon Rebel something or other that you called it. And I've got no formal training. I am entirely self-taught as a photographer, and I went professional in November 2010, which is when I came to live here in France. How do I work as a photographer? I'm still using Canon, 5D Mark IV, a 6D as a backup, and 7 L series lenses. 6 of them stay with me most of the time. I've traveled in many different countries, so at the moment it's 34. By the end of the week it will be 36. What you see is what you get with me. I'm not changing skies and stuff like that. It does not interest me to be fiddling about with that. That's not photography for me. I prefer to wait and get it as I want it. Of course, I do use Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop, but only to process my work, to just get it to that last bit that I need it to. So when I went over there, what did I use? Well, I used nearly every lens. So I used 6 out of 7. So I've got 3 tilt shift lenses because I love doing architecture. When you go to Uzbekistan, it's about the architecture. So I've got a 17, a 24, and a 50. The 50 took a long time to find, 6 months. I've got 3 zoom lenses. It's almost the Holy Trinity. It's the 1635, 2470, but the 100 to 400 instead of the 70 to 200. The 100 to 400 is amazing for stuff. I use Godox speedlight flashes for portability. Now, you might be thinking, why not use the Canon? Well, because the Godox, the battery is the lithium style battery rather than having to swap them out for AA batteries. So for travel, they're much better. And I used Rogue flash benders when I was there as well, for portability as well, instead of having big soft boxes when I was doing portraiture. And a Westcott reflector, which I'll be taking back to, hopefully, to Nepal. So a big reflector. Let's take it to Tashkent. I'll just give you a quick background as well as to why I was taking that flash stuff. So this time last year, I started going down the road of learning portraiture and using flash. Well, I already did portraiture to an extent, but I started to use Studio Flash because I never really got it. And last year I started to get it. Now I was asked to go over to Uzbekistan on behalf of a publishing company, and I was also being supported by the Ministry of Tourism when I went over there for 3.5 weeks. In this helicopter, in the right-hand side there with the blue, you can just see the blue arm there, that's the Minister of Tourism. So I met, upon arrival, looking as I am now, very tired, very just almost out of it from travel, the Minister of Tourism. So, and also got a helicopter ride up into the mountains. So we went off, they'd just taken delivery actually of the previous helicopter, Uzbekistan Airlines. And myself and another group in another helicopter went off in these helicopters up into the mountains. Now, Uzbekistan is not yet really known for skiing, but it's an up-and-coming ski area. So we were there going up into the mountains, and this was August. Now, August is actually, believe it or not, low season in Uzbekistan. And it's low season because it's so dang hot up there. It was on average 45 degrees centigrade every day. I can't do Fahrenheit, you'll have to translate it. Now, when I was there, I met numerous people, and some people I don't know their names, but I know who they are and what they do. This gentleman is Uzbekistan's, or one of Uzbekistan's most prominent artists. And he was really nice guy. And I was trying to work in front of TV cameras as well. So there was a lot of stuff going on that I hadn't been told about was going to be happening, So I took this guy's portrait and I thought, yeah, you know, it's kind of okay. And I was using the two speed lights here. And then he became a little bit more relaxed. And here I was more happier, a lot happier with the portrait that I did of him at this point. I just felt it was more who he was. And that's what I tried to try and capture in my portraits. I don't want it necessarily posed like the previous one. I prefer here where it's a lot more natural. So here there's two speed lights here that are lighting him up just while he's talking, really. But I much prefer this one. Now, this is one of 2 solar furnaces in the world. And basically what I was doing was a book that was to be entitled The 100 Experiences of Uzbekistan. I'm not sure what it's going to appear, but apparently it's going to appear soon. And I was there to basically take the photos from a foreigner's point of view of Uzbekistan. So I was taken to all sorts of weird and wonderful places. But this is one of 2 solar furnaces in the world. It looks like something out of a James Bond movie. I will grant you that. But it's certainly a layover from the Soviet period. Now, Uzbekistan is a Muslim country. However, it is not a Muslim country that you would be familiar with, for example, say in when we're hearing all the bad stuff coming out of the Middle East. As you were hearing, my escapades with a monk up in Lamaria the other day, they drink alcohol here in Uzbekistan, the Muslims. So you're sort of doesn't quite figure out. It's an interesting place to go to. Now, this is one of the mosques that's in Uzbekistan, a new mosque in Tashkent, in the capital. And here I'm waiting. I'm waiting with one of my friends who I made. He's another photographer who actually works for the Minister of Tourism, and he also photographs the president of Uzbekistan. I didn't get to meet the president, but anyway. So here we were waiting for the light, and this is classic me. This is absolutely classic me as a photographer, waiting. And I want the light like this because, as you can see, there's shadow, and therefore it gives you dimension. And that's what I want in my 2-dimensional images, is a 3-dimensional look. So you can see the shadows there, almost run your hands across it. It's also shifted as well. So that's what I'm mostly using on the tilt shift lenses, is the shift function. Tashkent is famous not only for the mosques, but also for the metro as well, the Soviet style metro. Until a few years ago, it was an official secret. Why? Because it's a bomb shelter as well. That's why, which you're sadly seeing in Kiev. It's doing what it's supposed to do at the moment. Now here, this was actually at the end of my journey. So I'm not doing it in chronological order. I'm taking you city by city. Now here, I was trying to do my photos, and I had a letter from the ambassador of Uzbekistan in Britain to say that I could photograph here. And I was there doing my photos, and suddenly there's a policeman comes up and accosts me, as I normally get, and started remonstrating, saying, no, can't do this, can't do that. And, okay. I said, look, there's the letter. And he's like, but it's in English, and he doesn't read English. So I'm having to use Google Translate. Now, Google Translate can be very, very useful tool to have with you. So I urge you to put it on your phone and download specific languages, because it can help. But also by this time, what had happened and what smoothed it over for me was I had been on national TV, and my friend had sent me the clip from national TV of me speaking about my work in Uzbekistan. So I was able to show the police officer me on TV, and he was like, "Oh wow, okay, good luck with your work, thanks, bye." So he then left me to continue photographing here in the metro. So I'm not sure what you've read about Uzbekistan, if anything at all, but certainly it's somewhere to think about going. If you ever, and if Russia ever comes back into the regular political sphere again and it opens up to people, I urge you to go and discover the Moscow metro. It's even more beautiful. And in some cases, this is kind of very reminiscent of how Moscow can be, this particular station here. Moscow can be like this. It looks like a palace or a museum. It's just amazing. You wouldn't think this is the metro, but it's the metro, as you can see. So yeah, they are beautiful, some of them inside. And actually, where I've just been in Georgia, I've had permission from the government to photograph the metro in Tbilisi, because again, it's actually doubles as a bomb shelter. So after doing a couple of things in Tashkent, in the capital, I was then put onto a plane to go to the far west, to an autonomous region. And it's also kind of a country within a country of Karakalpakstan. So it was where the formal Aral Sea was. It's also where I started to get my first taste of how regular Uzbeks can be with regards to sleep, because I wanted to get up in the morning, get up early, go and do the sunrise. And the previous nights, my guides, my fellow travelers who were photographing me and accompanying me had been drinking a little bit, and we needed to leave at 5:15 to go to this cemetery. So this is actually a Muslim cemetery, and in the background is, I think it's Turkmenistan, so it sits right on the border of another country. So this is near to the city of Nukus, where we had flown into. And thankfully, my guide had been here before, so he was able to tell me where to go in the cemetery. But it was a fascinating place to go. Then we had a crazy 4x4 journey to a place called Moynak. And Moynak is where the Aral Sea was. If you're not aware of the story, apparently the Russians, in their wisdom, or the Soviets, I should say, in their wisdom, decided that cotton was going to be a wonderful commodity, and they needed lots of water to irrigate the cotton. So they decided to drain the Aral Sea, and there's hardly anything left of it, which is quite sad, but that's actually how it goes. So we arrived in Moynak, and it's baking hot. I mean, it is just stifling outside. You walk out and you just go, oh, I'm going back inside again. It's too hot. So when we arrived in this small yurt camp, and there was a small cafe by the side of it. And inside was this young girl. And after lunch, she looked at me, I looked at her, and she said, "Hello." And I said, "Hello, what's your name?" And she said, "What's your name?" So she started repeating what it was that I was saying. So I said to her, "My name is Julian. What's your name?" "My name is Jasmine." And so we started just to teach each other things. So I was teaching her a little bit more English than she knew. She didn't know a lot, but she knew something. And so this is what I love to do on my travels. What I've missed during the pandemic is the communication with people of different countries and cultures. Even if you don't speak all of their language, it's still useful learning some of their language. So by this time, I've learned some Uzbek, as I actually had 2 or 3 lessons before I left France to go over here, to learn to say at least hello, goodbye, please, thank you, etc. So I looked at her and I said, "Look, the sky." And she went, "Sky? Yes. Osmon, sky." And then cloud, because there were some clouds. Things like bulot. And then you have ok bulot, white cloud. So there was some rapport going on. And then we waited until like 8 o'clock in the evening. And I wanted to photograph the old ships, which is what you're seeing behind there, these old rusting hulks. And she ran out with me and my friend Hayat, who was the photographer from the Ministry of Tourism. And she stood in front of the camera. And I thought, that's kind of not really one I wanted, but let's take a photo anyway. And I took it and I thought, wow, she's kind of got that look, just looking at me. But then she ran off. And she created for me what was, I didn't ask her to run, she just ran off. She created for me one of the most favorite images that I took in Uzbekistan. And I like it because it's just, you have the old and the new, the young and the old, and it's just childhood. And it's just a grab shot, but sometimes grab shots can just have that feel to them. And I really just love this photograph of innocence, just absolute innocence. It's a child just playing. She also had a friend called Aslan, and Aslan means lion. So he was there messing about as well, and I was teaching him English as well. And so they're there just climbing around in the boats and just having fun. And then Aslan had a friend as well who came along and started to play. So what Hayat started to do with me was direct them to do things on the ships. So as you can see, they're being kids. Although if you go to Britain, this doesn't sort of seem to happen now because people will be like, you can't go in these old ships, it's dangerous. But this is Uzbekistan, they do things. And then the two of them sat together and I caught them at one of those moments, like I did with a painter, a relaxed moment when they're just looking at each other, messing about and talking and laughing. And again, I love this photo because it's two friends. It's just two friends being friends, and it's natural. And that's what I really like in my portraiture when I'm doing these things. Now, one of the nice things about here is it's a big country, but not a lot of people, and you get beautiful night skies when you go over there as well. So depending on where you are, you can get some really, really nice night skies over there in Uzbekistan. So if you like night photography, it's seriously worth considering. We then went back to Nukus and also a village that's known for its artisans of making yurts by hands and a few other things as well. And here I was trying to capture them at work and not really happy with what I was taking. So I took this guy and I'm just sort of thinking, yeah, you know, the photos are okay, but there's something missing. And it's kind of difficult to explain at times, but sometimes you know that there's something not quite right. And these didn't feel quite right. So we went over to a workshop on the other side of the yard where they were working, and I found this guy. And I thought, yeah, you know, it's kind of there, it's getting there. And then suddenly he was doing something else, but by the window. And there was this light that was just coming in onto him. And I had one speed light set up as well. So I managed to balance the two together to get him and the light. And this one I really like because it really shows you the hard work that he's doing and also the heat of the day, because it was really hot out there. We then went back to Nukus, and again I'm using my tilt shift, and I look at this and I think, yeah, this is nice. I kind of would like it at night time as well. So I went back, and this is a good example of how not to do a nighttime photograph. It's too late. That's the problem. So for me, when I do cityscapes, there's a time that you need to stop, and it's 45 minutes after sunset, and that's really the limit when it comes to photography at night in a city for me, unless you're not including the sky. If you're not including the sky, it's fine, but if you're including the sky, don't go beyond 45 minutes. It looks not good. Here you can see there's still some blue in the sky, but it's gone. But you really want that nice inky blue, and it's, if you go too far after sunset, it's gone. Just look at the sky one evening if you can and watch what happens if you're not used to doing cityscapes at night. So now we go on through the deserts, and it was a long drive through this very flat, just nothingness, towards Hiva. And here was when I had a couple of problems with communication. So I'm traveling with 3 people, and all of them speak very, very little English. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever been put in this position where you're with somebody for 3 weeks and it's very difficult to communicate because you don't speak each other's language, which is good and bad. So it's good because it forces you to learn their language and them to learn your language, but bad because there's miscommunication. So when I arrived here, my guide stroke other photographer had said to the tourism board, "Don't worry, we don't need you." Now, I didn't know this had happened. And the guy said to me afterwards, because he spoke very good English, he had lived in America, said to me, "I knew you would get in trouble somewhere." So just before this, I'm trying to photograph somewhere and being told, "No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that." And I'm thinking, but I've been told I can photograph anywhere I want to by the ambassador. So I kind of just said to my guide, "Forget it. I'm going off on my own. I'm going to do what I want to." Okay. At the corner of my eye, I noticed a workshop where they were doing carpet. And I noticed a door. Now, you get these doors in Uzbekistan, in the old cities. They're amazing, these carved wooden doors. And so I hung up on the right-hand side the wares that they had created. And I looked at it and thought, it needs to be balanced. And so I asked them for a hammer and nail, as you do, and said, "Can I bang in a nail on the other side of the door?" "Oh, yes, that's okay." And then hung this up. And then I thought, well, there's something missing again, which was a person. And I noticed this young girl here, and her eyes struck me. They really struck me. So I got her to hold up the carpets here. And I thought, yeah, maybe. And then there was another young lady. And I thought, oh, well, let's get the 2 of them together so it's more welcoming. And their smiles as well. And their eyes, they've got these fabulous eyes there in Central Asia. But here, what I thought was missing again was the fact that we couldn't really see them. So I got them to drop the carpets a little bit. So we just saw a little bit more of who they were rather than nearly hiding them. We went up onto the city walls. So you can actually do this. Any tourist can do this. There's an old palace that you can go to, and you can climb up onto the top of the city walls. And up there was another photographer, and he was photographing a couple in traditional dress. Now, when I photograph people in traditional dress, what I prefer to do is you can't see anything in the background that's modern, and there's nothing on them that's modern. Now, this is a very good example of how you can use 100 to 400 to do portraiture, and you can still throw out the background. So you can see here, for example, I'm using that evening light on them, and also I'm excluding things in the background. So you can see, for example, there's nothing modern in the background, it's just the old city. So try to get your subjects and everything around it to match up so nothing seems out of place. Then, the next day, I was waiting to do a couple of things, and also I'd been told I was to be meeting with the Minister of Tourism as he was coming to Hiva to see how I was getting on. So I had to go in front of TV cameras again. And while we were waiting, I came across this young lady. And I asked through my guide if she would mind being photographed. And she's like, no, that's okay. And then one of the the guys I was with, he suggested that we put her in traditional dress. And there's this beautiful old door. This is the entrance to the western edge of the city. It's a huge, two huge wooden doors. And I thought, she's nice, but there's something missing. So then she took off the hood and she was more upright. Now, she didn't speak Uzbek, she spoke Russian, because in Uzbekistan, they speak either one or the other, and sometimes Tajik as well. So I speak a little bit of Russian. So I said to her in Russian, Меня зовут Julian. My name's Julian. Как вас зовут? What's your name? So she said, Меня зовут, what's her name again? Just trying to think of her name. Ferusa. So her name is Ferusa. So I was looking through my lens and I'm thinking, I kind of need her to look at me. So I went, hey, Ferusa. And she just looked at me with these eyes. And then those eyes just get me every time. I have a big print of this. And on that print, all the time, it's the eyes that get me. I love her eyes. And I'm still in contact with her. And if I can, I will be going to Khiva at the end of September or early October. And she posted something on Facebook the other day. And I said, I still want to come back and still photograph you. And she says to me, it's no problem. Anytime you want to come and photograph me, you know where to find me. And then I'll be there. So he was really cool. Now, one of the people showing me around Khiva was the director of tourism for Khiva, who was a young lady, and her uncle is here. This is her uncle. He happens to be one of the master craftsmen within the city. Now, if you remember what I was saying about the couple and the traditional dress, what you need to do when you're trying to do stuff like this is declutter things. Remember, it's not what you put in, it's what you take out. If you look at the background, it's quite messy. Now, you could clone things out, but that's not what I do. Get it right as much as you can in camera. So I went to see his brother, who was working behind him. And here is a good example of using the bokeh to not necessarily focus on the hands, because there's enough clarity in the background to see what he's doing. But I just wanted the traditional tools in front of him. And it was actually quite difficult to photograph because when he was working, it was like a men's barber. It's like all the time his hands are trying to do something. So it was getting him to just stop with the hammer at a particular point. And it was quite difficult because he's so used to doing it. It's his job, it's his everyday job. Oh. And then we were saying our goodbyes and his brother was stood at the door and there's this light that's just being reflected in. And I thought, oh, I just love that light that's coming in here. And so I asked if he would pose and he did. And again, I'm using that background, just sort out those backgrounds when you're somewhere like here. This is the perfect place if you want to go for travel photography. When you go here, you've got everything you want here. Now, listening to your subject, and certainly when it's a Muslim lady and a lady in general. So I was told that I was to be photographing somebody preparing a traditional Uzbek dish. So it's something that they do within pastry that's there's an egg inside. So she was there doing what it was that she was doing, preparing the food. I'm there, I've got my flash set up to capture and create the light within it. And then what happened is we got to a certain point and I thought, she's not really smiling. And so I asked, and she said, well, I've got a problem smiling. It's like, okay. So the guy that I was with, he was getting a little bit frustrated. He's like, come on, you can smile. And she was being you could see she was uncomfortable. So I said, well, what's the problem? And I said, because I said to the guide, I was just hold on, okay, just calm down. I said, let's find out what is the problem. And so what it was is on the right hand side of her mouth, she had a tooth missing. And she didn't like to smile because you could see the gap in her teeth. So it was only one tooth, but for her, it was obviously too much. And I had taken a photograph and you could see the gap. And she looked at me and just shook her head. And I looked at her and said, you know what? Delete, it's gone. Nobody will see this photograph ever. So I don't have the photograph anymore. And I asked if I could touch her just to put her head in position. And so moved her head where I needed it to be, and then took a photograph with her smiling, but you can't see the gap in her teeth. So be very aware of who you're photographing and if they've got anything that they feel uncomfortable with. Listen to your subject. Don't just snap away. At times you do need to listen to who it is that's in front of you to gain their trust as well. That's very important. We were walking through the city to go to photograph one of the old palaces, and everybody I'm with, they're just so focused on going to the next place. And I looked across and I said, hey, wait, what's wrong? I said, look, I'm seeing things that for you is everyday life, but for me is very much photographically speaking, amazing, beautiful. And I saw these two ladies in traditional dress. And I just thought, wow, they're just so cool. And we asked if we could photograph them, and they were initially reluctant, but they did then say, yes, you can photograph us. So always be on the lookout for things like that. So, you know, there's stuff that I'm sure in your neck of the woods is very much the norm. But if I was to come over, it would be like, oh, wow, that's very different. But for you, you might be looking around and thinking, but it's just our neck of the woods. It's like, but it might be to you, but to me, it's not. So try and detach yourself as well from where you are to see your locale differently. One of the things that I do as well when I'm in cities is to try to go up to look over, because I like to be able to get a different point of view on cities such as this one in Hever. So we asked the shop if we could go up on their roof, and they said yes. So ask if you think, can you go somewhere, and they're going to say no, just ask, because you might be surprised. Back up on the city walls again. So I've asked my now friend and guide, Matt Karim, who works for the tourism board. It's like, hey, Matt, do you think we can go up on the city walls early in the morning? He's like, yeah, sure. He was a bit worse for wear when I met him. I'm not sure he had been sleeping very well, but we went up on the city walls early in the morning. And here I love using the lines to just sort of lead you into the picture there. And as you can see in the sky there, you know, it's pretty much nearly a clear sky. I was happy to get some cloud actually at some points here during my time in Uzbekistan, as it was mostly blue sky. Now, at this time of the year, the big problem is that once the sun is up, the light's gone, really. It's quite difficult at times, so avoid August. Now, as I said, this is basically a travel photographer's dream to go here to Uzbekistan. It's just absolutely, you know, you are being transported through the centuries when you go over here. There's tons of stuff to do. There's landscapes, there's architecture, there's people, there's food, there's just tons of stuff to do when you go over here. Again, using lights. Now, I love using lights to create dimension in my images. So here you can see the early morning light is falling down on the mosque here, and you can again go into the photograph, and that's really what I'm after. Now, the pluses and minuses of using Photoshop. We all use Photoshop to clone things out and do this and do that. When we went to this old palace, they had been watering the gardens. In front of the camera, there was a huge hose pipe. Now, what some people would say is, oh, I'll clone that out later. Well, why clone it out later and spend, I don't know how long, trying to make it look right and seeing those horrible pixels that you're trying to clone in, when all you could do is just say very nicely, do you mind, can we move the hose pipe? And it saves you so much time. Tidy your scenes up before you just look at what's in front of you and think, oh, that's nice. Oh, there's a crisp paper, or there's something, there's a plastic bottle. Just tidy things up before you take them if you can, because it looks much nicer. The benefits of working for the Minister of Tourism and having high level access to places meant that here I was able to get this shot of this former mosque here and get it nicely tidied up. Now, if you see the staircase, you can actually go up here and go onto the top of the minaret. Now, I didn't go up there, but what I did want is a photograph without the barrier. They had this, because it's a paying place to go up. They had this barrier. So I was with Matt and I said, do you think that we can remove that barrier there? He said, yeah, we can do that. Great. So I was able to, instead of having to clone out this horrible black barrier, I was basically got it removed for me. We then went to the city of Bukhara. In Bukhara, I met the lady that sponsored my flight to go to Uzbekistan. And she is from Kazakhstan. Her husband happens to work for somebody in the Turkish government, I think it is. So I'm hoping today she's finally going to tell me what's going on with Kazakhstan and whether I'm going to Kazakhstan for 2 months. Now, ladies being ladies, she wanted to go shopping. So she had already bought lots of books because she takes care of a library, some kind of Turkic library in not in Istanbul, in Ankara. And she went off to buy this traditional jacket here. And we were out early in the morning and she's like, oh, photograph me, photograph me. And she was great because she was very photogenic and also pretty much a natural. And again, you can see how I'm using that light. And we were waiting just a little bit just to get the shadows coming across there early in the morning. There is a photograph, I didn't put it in this presentation, of me showing her how I need her to walk through this particular scene. Now, what you're not seeing, and again, this is talking about taking out and not putting things in, it's about what you take out, is that the shadow on the bottom is actually a lorry, a very ugly lorry that was there on the right-hand side of the picture. But it gives you dimension in the image with the shadow. And then we went to one of the mosques, and the architecture inside this mosque is unbelievable. So you can spend hours trying to do stuff here as a photographer. So again, she's there, she's changed her dress now, and she's walking down there, floating down there. And then she walks back. And I love this. I just love this again, where she's just being so natural. You know, she's a beautiful young woman and she was there. And what I was doing is I had my camera on its tripod, and then I put on AI servo on my Canon. So it's constantly focusing as she's walking towards me. And I've got lots of shots of her just walking up through here. Now, composition. Be very aware of your compositions all the time. This is my friend Hayat. He is a photographer, and he photographs mainly the Minister of Tourism, as well as the president of Uzbekistan. So I was at the bottom of the stairs and he said, "Hey, take my picture." I was like, "Okay." And I looked at it and this is where you have to think quickly all the time. I looked at it and thought, there's something not right. Can anybody think what's not right with this picture? You can unmute yourself to answer. No?
I'd like more light coming from where the person with camera is standing.
Yeah, there's not much that I can do about that. Something with him. Think about him.
He has no feet.
The feet. Yeah. So I asked him to move his feet. Can you see the difference between cutting his feet off and then where this huge step was to put his feet up? Makes a massive difference to the image. We then went back for breakfast, and Asel here is sat opposite me, and she's just like this, gazing out the window, and I can't turn off photography. I'm doing it all the time. I'm either editing, I'm either researching, or I'm taking pictures. It's inbuilt. So we just sat at breakfast and I looked at her and I just, "Oh, just stay there, will you please?" "What?" I said, "Just do what you're doing." And I could see her across the breakfast table, that light coming in there. No flash, no reflectors, nothing. Oh. Not sure what went on there. Computers. So we went out to the bazaar, and again, I'm loving the architecture here. And there's all the clothing there, that's all these really bright colors. And I'm thinking there's something missing. It needs somebody to go through here. So we asked the shopkeeper, who said, "No, not doing it. I don't want to be in your photo." So I said to my guide, "Can you say to him, I'd really like him to be in my photo, but I just need him to walk away from us and we won't see his face." And then he agreed to do it. So just adding in somebody to give focus into that picture again, to let you go in with them, because you hopefully want to go into the picture. Stealing somebody else's model. So I had a little bit of time on my own, and I was going to the central square that's here in Bukhara, and walking the other way was this young lad and a lady that had been photographed by another local photographer. And they looked at me and said, "Hello." I was like, "Hi, hello." I said, "Oh, can I ask you something?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." I said, "Can I borrow you?" So they're like, "Borrow me? What for?" I said, "I need you to be in my picture to walk towards the mosque, please." So he's there walking towards this mosque. And I love the wind. It's just whipped up his jacket there at the back. This is actually taken at midday. So I know a lot of times people say, "Oh, you want the early morning light, you want the afternoon light, the evening light." Yes, it is much more preferable. However, there would have been a lot more people here. But still, it gives it a nice dimension. A friend of mine, Maftuna. So she was our guide for some things in Bukhara. And she was talking to me a lot and asking me things. And she said, "Oh, do you think I could be in your picture?" I said, "Yeah, sure. I'd probably need somebody at some point." So again, this is around midday and it's baking hot. And I looked at this and I thought, well, it kind of needs something. So I said, "Hey, Maftuna, now's your opportunity. Just walk for me, will you, into that picture?" So I knew I roughly needed her. But then she did something unscripted. She just happened to look to her left. And I think she just had an instinct to do something. And I think it works great because you look at her who's looking to the left. So you go in and then you go to the left. So your eyes go around the picture, which is perfect. Sometimes these unscripted moments are the best. Uzbekistan has many handicrafts. So here you've got this metal worker working, just tirelessly creating these souvenirs for people. They are amazing to watch. Unbelievable detail that this guy does, just tapping out the metal. But again, it's also back to the architecture. So my initial inspiration to go to Uzbekistan is coming up soon. But here, this is still Bukhara and it's still the mosques. So it's fantastic to be able to photograph these places, and they don't mind you photographing either, which is a good thing. So you can come away with lots of pictures of the mosques. But it's also where, if you're going to go to Uzbekistan, I would urge you to take a tilt shift lens or two because of the architecture that's there. Don't have converging verticals. These are beautiful, beautiful buildings. And I think if you mess them up, it looks horrible. Tidying up a space. Now, there's some things I can tidy up and some things that I can't. The light on the wall is one thing that I can't tidy up. This is where maybe you could clone it out, but I'm not sure I would. It's still kind of part of it. So when I looked inside this shop, I thought, oh, I really love this place. It's just Central Asia. But there was a Coke bottle on the floor. There was a Visa sign, American Express, and all other paraphernalia. So through the help of my guide, I said, can we move things? Remember the hose pipe? Get the hose pipe out. Don't sit cloning things out when you can ask, is it possible to do this? So we just moved things out of the way in order to create this photograph, which means there's no cloning to do apart from maybe the light. Because if you're not seeing the light, if you didn't see that light there, it could be they've taken who knows when. It wouldn't look a modern image. Where you saw Maftuna, this was the palace inside. And again, when you've got architecture like this, you really do need a tilt shift lens in order to properly show it off. Let's talk about dimension. Now, I do like to use shadows, as you've seen, to create dimension. You can see there's the afternoon light here, creating the shadows that are going across the scene. But there's something missing for me, and that something was actually, I didn't need to be looking straight onto this, but actually from the side. So again, you've got that dimension within the image. So you can see the difference between looking straight on, look quite flat, to being there on the side of it. Think about your angles when you're doing architecture. We were allowed to go up the tower that was in the central square of Bukhara, the Tower of Death. And it's called the Tower of Death because when in olden times you had the ultimate sentence, you were thrown off the top of the tower to your death, the Tower of Death. So we went up there and the view was okay. The problem is that we were too close to things in order to get those types of shots. And I looked over though towards where the sun was setting and I thought, oh, I do like the arc. This is what they call the arc, the old castle here. And I could see the people sort of walking around and the sunlight coming across. Now, remember, you may remember something I said about the nighttime shots is if you don't need to have the sky in it, take the sky out. I didn't need the sky in this. I just wanted people to see the building there, the light falling on it, and the people. So I'm having to think, where can I have the people? And so I'm just waiting for that particular moment to get the shot of people walking around here. When we came down, I noticed a small doorway which led out here, this view overlooking the square. And I thought, oh, that's awesome. That frame there. You've got that's framing the mosque in the background. So find frames for your images as well to get you in there. This is a 17mm tilt shift shot, so it's nice because it's not too wide for this particular shot, but it's giving me everything that I need. Waiting for moments, observing your surroundings. So early one morning, I thought I really wanted to get this before leaving. We were leaving on this particular day. So I'd noticed this place the day before and really wanted to take it, but it needed something, and that something was a person. And what I noticed is there were lots of bicycles going to and fro in the morning. And what I wanted to do is capture somebody, but you couldn't see who they were, because then it requires a model release. And I found that it was better to have somebody coming from the right-hand side rather than the left-hand side. It seemed to work a lot better. And I just waited for that particular moment. And when I could see somebody, well, I don't use it a lot nowadays. I'm normally using the self timer, but I have my cable release. So this is when you need your cable release to then go, gotcha. Got the shot, got it where I need it to be. When we're leaving, I say to my team, I said, I really need to get an outside shot of the ark. Well, we don't really have time. I said, well, we're going to make time because I want it. I need to get it. Oh, well, let's go here. No, that's no good. Why not? Because we're looking directly into the sun. I need to go the other side of it. Oh, we haven't got time. We can have time. We're going to make time up. So again, you must think about dimension in your images when you're doing stuff like this. So you can look into this and you can see all that dimension there on the architecture. We went to then a place called Navoy. And Navoy is a yurt camp. And it was quite interesting getting here because we got nearly lost in the desert trying to find this place. And it's baking hot and it's not really somewhere you want to get lost in the desert. So eventually we found the yurt camp. Now by this time, a couple of members of the team are starting to ask me how I actually sell my work. What do I look for? So I said to them, you know, your biggest problem that I've seen since we've been here is that you are passing images by. What do you mean? I said, well, for you, everyday life is everyday life in Uzbekistan. But for me, it's not. It's much more interesting. So you might look at this yurt camp and go, no, it's just a yurt camp. It's not just a yurt camp. It's a yurt camp with many possibilities in it, like this doorway into the yurt. Oh, okay. So I was starting to teach them how to be detached from their country, to actually be a foreigner, to look into their country. In the evening, this guy came up and was playing the dombra for us around a campfire. And I was looking at him and I kept looking and looking and looking, and I thought, he's got that type of face. And the light that was coming from the campfire on him, I just thought, that's just awesome. And so I asked him to do a photography session with me. So he did. So again, just always be, you might be relaxing around the campfire, but be aware of what's going on. Don't switch off. I don't switch off. We went to the jewel of Uzbekistan for a lot of people, Samarkand. Now, in Samarkand was where one of my guides was from. And so he wanted me to stay with his parents to save some money on hotel costs. So we went off to his parents' place, and he said to me, do you think we should go to the paper factory and the artisan center while the other two guides are going off to their hotel. So yeah, okay, why not? So we went off and I was given a tour of the paper factory, which was interesting because they show you how they make paper, how they get it from the wood into paper. But the images, they're okay. I preferred this guy, a master potter. Now, this was a good use of a reflector blocking light. So there was a huge amount of light coming in here. So I got my 40 odd inch reflector and I said to my guy, just hold it there. Just let's block the light, just really hitting him. So I didn't get his face in focus deliberately. I just wanted his hands because, excuse me, it was the hands for me that were what it was that was important. And my guide took a picture and I looked at it and thought, oh, I kind of like that. And he said, oh, I like the light like this. This is what I really like. Okay. Now, don't be afraid to take inspiration from other people. So I looked and thought, I kind of like what he's done there. And so I did my own version of it. So you could see this huge amount of light coming in, but if you exposed it in a particular way, then it gave you this really nice light here like this. Again, teaching them how to look beyond their country, to come out of their country, to look into it. We are walking around Registan Square and I look up and I see this guy and I said, hey, wait, what? I said, have you not noticed? No. I said, look at that guy up there, the restorer. What about him? I said, there's a shot, watch. Bang. So you have to be looking all the time. Is it tiring? Yes, it is. But you've always got to be on the lookout for things. We're in a different country, a different culture. There's always something going on somewhere, even in your neck of the woods. I then asked my guide from Registan Square, could we go up to meet him? And he said, yeah, okay. So we went up and we started having conversations with the restorers. And I looked at this guy and I thought, I like him, but I feel something's missing. And what it was his glasses. And I felt he looked better without his glasses. Working under pressure. Now, after this, I was told that we were to be meeting this lady. She is a master embroiderer that works around the square. And I'm having to try to take my photograph under the gaze of a TV camera. It's not the best environment to be working in when you're trying to work out how to get a photograph and thinking, I'm still not that used to taking images with flash. How am I going to do this? So you're having to quickly think and being under the pressure of the TV camera to hopefully get your picture right. So I did. But it's not the best environment to work under. We then came out and the team said to me, hey, we've got somebody we think you'll like. I said, oh yeah, who's that? Let's come and look at this old guy here. So this old gentleman was just sat on a bench outside of the main square. And they'd asked him if he would mind being photographed, and he didn't. So it was great because it meant that I had somebody that was just picture perfect. You know, there's a lot of, you find when you go to Central Asia, people have this look that's very, very photogenic. Getting in trouble. Now you might be thinking, bread, how can you get in trouble with bread? Well, as I mentioned, I had learned a little bit of Uzbek when I went over there. So at least, hello, assalamu alaikum. And then you respond with walaikum assalam. Thank you, rahmat. please, iltimos. Goodbye. I can't remember what goodbye is. No, it's salamat bowling. God be with you. Or there's another way as well. Now we went to the bazaar, and I'm there photographing, and I'm thinking, on the list of things for the 100 experiences of Uzbekistan is the bread. So I asked through my guides with this lady and two other ladies, is it possible to take your portrait with the bread, please? Would that be possible? Oh, yes, that's not a problem. Now, what I like to do with people is that I'm doing their portrait is to show them afterwards their portrait. So I know they're happy with their portrait. Remember the young lady and the tooth missing? Show them the picture. Because you know what it's like. You take a picture, oh, I look awful in this picture. So each of these ladies was so happy with their picture, they offered me their daughter's hand in marriage. So this is the wonderful thing about travel that I missed during the pandemic, is getting out there and talking with people from different cultures, and you come back with these crazy stories. And on the way to the Shahrizad Mausoleum, I saw this guy out of the car window and I thought, oh, wow, look at that face. That is just amazing. Oh, sorry, we're on it. We have to go somewhere else. It's like, oh. So when we arrived, he was going to the same place. So we managed to corner him and ask him for his photograph. Miscommunication. In Samarkand, one of my guides had a friend who spoke really good English to a point. And I said to him, I really like this guy. I really love his look. And I need to take photos of people with the Muslim skull cap. And he said, oh, I'll go and ask him. I said, okay, good. So I went to ask him and he came back and said, oh no, he won't do it. I said, why? He said, oh, I don't know. He said something or other. So I went up to him and he, in perfect English, he said, I'm sorry, I can't give you permission to photograph in here. And I said, that's not what I'm asking. Oh, what are you asking? I said, well, look, I'm a professional photographer. I'm working on a project and I really like how you look. Can I take your portrait? Oh, yes, you can take my portrait anytime. Anytime you need somebody to take a portrait, I can do that for you. So I don't know what the guide's friend had said, but something got mistranslated somewhere. And then into the mausoleum. Now, the frustrating thing that I was finding at times was that they were taking me to some places at the wrong time of day. So they took me here in the afternoon. But this isn't a photograph to be taken in the afternoon. This is actually a photograph to be taken in the morning. So they could see I was a little bit irritated and they said, well, what's wrong? I said, it's the wrong time of day again. What the heck are we doing here at this time of day? Well, it's okay, isn't it? No, it's not. It needs the sunlight on it, not behind it. Oh, okay. We're going to go back. Oh, really? Yes, really. Then we went off and I photographed and finished the mausoleum. And they said to me, do you think we have time to go to the Silk Road University? And I said, well, maybe. Do I have the time? Oh, well, we've arranged for you to have an interview at the Silk Road University. I said, well, we better go then, hadn't we? If you've arranged my time without telling me, we better go into this university then. So we went off and I was annoyed. And I was annoyed because they were doing things without telling me and arranging my time without telling me. And I said to them, I want to go back to Registan Square. But you were there last night. Well, I know I was there last night, but when I started trying to take my pictures, the guide, Jasser, is there talking in my ear And I'm trying to listen to him and be polite, but also trying to get pictures before the light goes. I want to go back to Registan Square. Okay. So we arrive at the square and I looked at all three of them and I said, leave me alone. I need to be on my own. I need to go and think. Oh, okay. You could see they were a bit sort of, what are we going to do with him? What should we say? It's just like, leave me alone. Now, the previous evening, I'd seen somebody in a shop around the square, and I thought, oh, I'd really like to get this lady's photograph. So I went back and she had gone. Her mother was there and she wasn't very photogenic. So I went and sat on the steps of the mosque and I was looking over and I saw this young lady. And I thought, wow, she's beautiful. So I went over and I'm thinking, how can I ask her to take a photograph? A guy, it's that guy-girl thing, if you know what I mean. It's just like, how the heck am I going to ask her? So I just looked at her and she was with two friends and I said, do you speak English? A little. I said, what do you need? I said, I'm a professional photographer. Here's my card, my press card. I said, I'd really like to take your photograph. Can I take your photo? And she went, oh, how much? I said, how much? It's for free. Really? Yeah, I said, I'll take your photograph for free. Don't worry about it. Right, team, get over here now with a flash. So we then set up my portable studio in Registan Square and started photographing Saida. And she was great because she just didn't need directing. Listening to your subjects. Again, listening to your subjects. We went to the carpet factory in Samarkand where they make these beautiful Afghan carpets. So I was taking some pictures of this master carpet maker. And then he said, I have something for you. It's like, okay. He didn't give it to me, sadly, but it's like, look at this. Can anybody see what is unique about this carpet? Look very carefully at the carpet. What's unique about it?
Looks like it's made of silk.
It is made of silk, but there's something
All
different.
hand, all hand tied, and it's only on one side, the pattern.
No, not quite. Keep going.
He's showing you the back of the back of the fabric.
It's a double-sided carpet.
Yes.
So actually, if you look, each side has a different pattern.
Oh,
So it's
perfect.
it's a reversible carpet.
Very difficult to weave, I bet.
Oh, I imagine, yeah. So they were saying that the carpets take around 8 months to make. They are very expensive carpets. Very expensive. Now, when I was in the Silk Road University, I met this young lady who was taking me around and showing me the Silk Road University. And she had started to follow me on Instagram. And she saw on Instagram the story that I posted up about Saida, the girl you saw just a couple of slides ago. And she saw that Saida had said, I've just been photographed by the world's best photographer, which was really nice to have that. And she sent me a message to say, can you take my photograph? So, well, maybe. Have you got the time? Have we got the time? And I said, can you meet us at this particular place? I think it's the Amir Tamur Mosque. So it's like, yeah, we'll meet you there. So I'm photographing her and I thought, oh, you know, she's doing what she does and seems to be quite a natural behind the camera, in front of the camera. And then I said to her, can you take your glasses off? Oh, I don't like being photographed without my glasses. I said, why not? I said, take your glasses off. I think we'll see. And I thought she then came alive. She looked so different without her glasses. And she said, can I see the pictures? I said, yeah, sure. And she went, oh, maybe I do look okay without my glasses. So I was really happy that her own opinion of herself had changed from going, oh, I don't like being photographed without glasses, to maybe I do look okay without my glasses. Back to the architecture again. So as I've said, this place is a travel photographer's dream, and I think probably you're starting to see that now. And if you've never considered Uzbekistan as a destination, you should, because it will just enthrall you when you go to Uzbekistan. It's so full of history and so many subjects when you go here. Adding in people. So you can see here is my friend Hayat again. And he was great because he knows what to do. He's a photographer. So I got him to lay down here. And you can see the angles that I'm using here. It's quite difficult to get everything to be right. It's an old building, so it's not quite, everything isn't quite true. But you can see, for example, notice the arch there that's going down, goes straight down the middle to that point there. And then without people as well. So don't be afraid to put people in or out of your pictures just to see how things are. A photograph I'm a little bit proud of, actually. So we went back to the mausoleum, the Shahrizad mausoleum, in the morning, as I had requested. And you can see how much difference it makes by having the light on the facade rather than behind it. And this particular picture was shortlisted in the Historic Photographer of the Year last year, which was nice because the competition ended like in early October, I think it was. And to think I'd only taken this a couple of months beforehand. So it was very nice because it got huge amounts of publicity around the world in various newspapers. So it went quite viral, which was nice. Now, when it comes to architecture, it's not always the case that I stand with a tripod and get the tilt shift out. Sometimes it's a case of look up, get things converging in. So you get that perspective that you would have when you were there. So you can spend hours here, you really can. It's not that big a place to visit, but the thing is, there's so much there with the tiles, the majolica. You just spend hours doing detail shots and it's wonderful walking around the Shahrizad. Again, adding in people, talking to people and saying, is it possible? Could you do this for me? So I got this gentleman who was actually taking care of the mausoleum to step into the picture. And again, he kind of makes it, because without, it seems a little empty. Registan Square. My inspiration to go to Uzbekistan. I saw a picture of this somewhere and I looked at it and I thought, oh, wow, I want to go there. And I'm doing this all the time. All the time I'm reading newspaper magazines when I'm traveling, newspapers and magazines, etc. And you see things, and you just think, oh, wow, where's that? Note that down. I want to go there. Just keep that bucket list. For me, it's not a bucket list. It's just a never-ending list of places that inspire me. Getting down low. Don't always put your tripod up eye height. Sometimes you want to go low. And with a tilt shift lens, you get a slightly different perspective by going down low and then shifting up. You get this unusual perspective looking here. Shahrizad, a place that not a lot of people go to. And I think overall there's something like 20,000 Americans visit Uzbekistan each year. It's not a lot of you will be going to Uzbekistan. There was an old mosque in Shahrizad, and I was looking at it and I'm thinking, I really want to do something with this. how can I do this? And I sketch things out in my mind and when I'm taking photographs. So I take a photograph and look at it and think, yeah, no, I don't know. There took a few attempts to get this, to get it sort of all the angles coming in here, but I really like this photograph looking through these columns here in the mosque. So just don't take a picture and say, yes, I'm happy with it. Take a picture, look at it, analyze it. Sometimes it's there very quickly. Sometimes you get it very quickly. Sometimes not. Sometimes you have to look and look and look and go, yeah, that's what I want. There's a new mosque in Chakri Sabs, which is beautiful. So we waited here trying to get it without traffic, but that was actually impossible as there was so much traffic in Chakri Sabs. But again, you can see why I love using tilt shift lenses, because when you've got a building that's as beautiful as this, you don't want to be doing converging verticals on that. You really want it to look as beautiful as it is. We went off into the countryside. Probably no foreigners go here, I would surmise. And we were in a small mausoleum. And this was the guy that was taking care of it. And we were talking to him. And I just noticed the light falling on his face. And again, just be relaxed, but don't be missing photographs. If you can see something, get it. So always try not to turn off. Just relax, and actually then you'll find things. Feeling uncomfortable. So we went over to a mosque, a very old mosque, and it was Friday prayers. Now Hayat, who was with me, one of the guides and photographers, is Muslim. And I said to him, are we okay to take photos? Oh yeah, that's no problem. They don't mind. Oh, okay. And I was looking and taking photographs when they were praying. And I was thinking, actually, I don't want to take photographs. I feel like I'm intruding into their world. And so stopped at this point. It didn't feel right to intrude into somebody's prayer. And I think sometimes you have to learn to come away and know when to stop. So it's not what you put in, it's what you take out. And sometimes it's knowing when to stop, to actually give somebody space. Suhandaria. So there is obviously a stan that is very dangerous, which is Afghanistan. So we were making our way further south from Chakri Sabs. We came to this area of Suhandaria, just like unbelievable place. Now, actually, I can't get it. It's not within reach. There's a very small journal in America called the Explorer's Journal. And if you find it, I'm in it with this particular area of Uzbekistan. So I'm just thinking, is it to hand? And it's not to hand. Or is it? Hold on, I might be able to get it. I can get it afterwards. But there's a small journal in America called the Explorer's Journal. And you will see some images that I took there. And I was in it because I've basically gone to a place in Uzbekistan that probably lots of people will never go to. And it's probably never really photographed at all. Which is a shame because it does have some beautiful natural landscapes in southern Uzbekistan. It's just like, wow. Then we went to the border of Afghanistan. So I remember being in the car and thinking, is this going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? We're going near to Afghanistan. So we went to the town of Termez. The first evening that we were in Termez, we're looking up in the sky, and all you can see in the sky are drones, because Kabul is on the brink of falling. Hayat is busy on his phone, and he's busy because his friend is in Kabul, and he can't get hold of his friend. And he's thinking, is my friend okay? Is he dead? It was quite a poignant time when we were there. The next morning we went to this mosque, and I was allowed to photograph inside the mosque by the imam. And I showed him my picture, and he was really happy with the way I had photographed his mosque. He loved the pictures that I took. And we then went to a place which I believe is Alexandria Oxiana, which is a very ancient city. Now at this time, and you can find the video that I did here on YouTube, what I'm talking about at this time is that there were no borders. There was just culture, a mixture of culture. In the background, the green is Afghanistan. That's how close I was to Afghanistan. When we were here, my guide from this area heard a gunshot. Here, we were approximately 90 minutes from a town in Afghanistan where atrocities were being committed. It's very thought-provoking when you're stood here and Afghanistan is just in the background, knowing what's going on. To think it's just there, what's going on. Talking of different cultures, you've seen that Uzbekistan is mostly Muslim. There are Orthodox Christians as well. Everybody gets on. There's also Buddhism, or there was in ancient times. This is a Buddhist temple that sits on the border of, strange enough, Afghanistan. You probably think, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Buddhism? Really? Yeah. Here it is. So it's a huge melting pot. Now I'll be headed to very briefly Turkey on Thursday. We often talk about Turkey being the crossroads of East and West. I don't think it is. I think actually Uzbekistan is the real crossover between East and West, where you've got the huge melting pot of all the different cultures. I think it's much more a case of that. So there's lots of archaeology around here. It's an amazing place to visit for history buffs. So there's this old castle that sits near Termez, and you can see how it is. Now, something you can do is you can go up on top of the castle and walk around the walls. So we were actually on top of the castle at one point, walking around the ancient ones. We then eventually flew back to Tashkent because of what was going on in Afghanistan. They were unsure if we could fly out of Termez from the airport. What I didn't know until a couple of days later is that there were a lot of planes helicopters, I think it was, sat near the runway, and they had captured about 40 Afghan helicopters that had come across the border trying to flee from the Taliban. So we went to the Fergana Valley. Now the Fergana Valley is a hotbed of artisans, of many different things that goes on in the Fergana Valley. So you get the painting of the Majolica here. Then you also get potters as well. Here, for example, I've got my friend Hayat. He's got my reflector outside, reflecting the lights in, as there was no real light inside this guy's studio here. being on the ball or being on the plate, taking a picture and quickly assessing it, having to look at something and going, is this or isn't this a good picture? And I took this of the artisan, proudly displaying his paint here. He is a master artisan. And it's like, yeah, it's okay. But something's wrong. It's too cluttered. And he's hunched over. So I said to him, you need to be up like that. And you can see the difference by him being more upright, holding his plate up, and there's more separation there. Okay, the plate could be up a little bit more, but still. You can see the difference between that and that. Where this looks more busy. He's hunched over here. He's more separated from the background. Working a scene, really trying to get the image. Here we've gone to a silk factory. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, I really like what it is that he's doing. You can see the background though, it's cluttered. It feels like there's too much going on. So I'm thinking, what can I do? So I'm there going in on his hands, trying to get him, excuse me, high up, is outside, getting the reflector, trying to pull the light in. And then I said, go and get me a ladder. Well, we haven't got a step ladder. I said, well, there's a chair over there. Let's go and get that chair. Bring it over here. I said, right, hold on to the chair because I'm going to stand on top of the chair and then I'm going to look down. Now, I do like to photograph people's hands. Not everybody's hands work on their own, but this is one of those ones whereby the hand on its own works. And you can see the compositional element. And I wasn't thinking about that particular thing at the time, but this is where it just comes to you. So the very strong compositional element is the diagonals that you can see here. There's one there coming down there, there's a couple going down there, and then across, diagonals. And so this illustrates perfectly to you why it is you don't necessarily need to see the entire person. Wandering around the workshops, there was this lady here spinning the silk on this old wheel. She's just turning the wheel all the time to spin the silk. As I said, this is one heck of a place for travel photography. You know, I know I'm going to Nepal. People very often, people are thinking of Nepal as that travel destination. I think you better start looking at Uzbekistan as an alternative and cheaper destination to go to. So you can see how much there is here for photographers to do. The architecture, the people, the landscapes, there's so much here that you can be doing in a trip. Then near the end of the trip, this was like the third day away from the end of the trip, we were in the mountains near Tajikistan. And they're saying to me, what is it you need? It's like, oh, I'd really like some landscapes. And we stopped the van and there happened to be this young herder in his nightgown, by the looks of it, going across the field. And I just thought, it's just so unusual. And by this time, they've taught me how to say, can I take your picture, please? Razm ga olay. Iltimos, razm ga olay. So he looked at me as I'm walking across the field to him, this foreigner with a camera in his hand, like, yeah, yeah. Another architectural picture. And this is something that's, because I live in the Loire Valley, it's become useful in Uzbekistan. In the Loire Valley, we have lots of tree plantations, but all the trees are in a line. So you get there are long rows and columns of all these trees. And what that did for me very early on in my career was helped me to separate things out, to look at a picture and go, what do I need to do with this? How can I get this? So you're there trying to separate things out and put things in the right place. So those trees became the mosque here. there you go. And now you can ask anything you want to. And of course, you can find me on social media and all that stuff. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you would like to go to Uzbekistan, actually, I'm going there in late September, October, hopefully with people.
Very interesting.
What were your accommodations like when you would, spend the night someplace? What was that like?
Which talk did I do for you before? Mongolia. I'm just trying to think. So here is very
I
developed.
remember.
Here is much more developed than other places. So some of the hotels are really nice. Certainly in Tashkent, I mean, it just like any other modern city. In the Hiva, we were staying in an old caravanserai. So it's just really nice. It's just really nice accommodation. Really nice. I mean, it's one of those places whereby there's some good and there's some bad. I didn't stay in any bad.
Yeah.
And I will say that, for what they've got so far, the infrastructure is there with accommodation.
Julian, a lot of photos of mosques and ancient ruins.
Yeah.
And personally, I love that stuff. But I'm also wondering, did you visit any modern architecture? And if you did, what was that like?
No, the most modern architecture I saw was the metro.
Mhm.
So you're talking 1970s. And the solar furnace. That was the modern. Well, the newest building was the mosque in the very beginning, the big white mosque. That's actually quite new. That's not an old mosque. It's actually quite new.
Was the food a challenge at all, or was it something you could handle?
As a vegetarian, it was interesting at times. So, well, what I was told was that pre-COVID, the president had ordered every restaurant to offer at least 2 vegetarian meals. They were under orders to offer that, which was interesting. So when I was there, it was more challenging as we were in COVID times, still very much in COVID times. And but the thing is when they do vegetarian, they can actually do vegetarian really well. They just choose not to do it because they're a meat-heavy country. If you like meat, of course, then you'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, it was mostly easy, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does a tilt shift lens work? I've heard of them, but I don't know how they work. Oh, okay.
I think that's my battery. It's just fallen on the floor on my GoPro. Okay, I will show you. I'll get one out of my bag. So this is a 50mm tilt shift, and they all work the same. So on the side, you have these locking mechanisms. And on here, you've got the things that move them. So I'm not sure how well I can show this without messing up my lens. But basically, if you watch this, what's it going to do? Which way is it going to go? I don't know how well it will show, but you can see there. You see the back of the lens moving?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
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 And that aligns the verticals by moving it?
Yep. So your
So-
image circle is huge.
So the building doesn't look like they're leaning
Exactly.
towards each other. It straightens them out.
Yeah. And the
Okay.
thing is once you start using one, then you wonder how you ever did without it.
And they're extremely expensive too.
Well, what I did is I found them used. So it
Yeah.
took me 6 months to find the used 50mm tilt shift.
Yeah, yeah.
You can get a 24 for about probably $1,500, I would say.
Oh, that's not too
It's not
bad.
so
No,
bad,
that's
yeah.
not real bad.
Is
No.
that used or new?
That's used. If you
Yeah.
look around, yeah, the Canon.
Yeah.
Well, that's Canon. I know Nikon's more expensive, but usually it's quite easy to find the 17 and the 24. Now with Canon, what you can do is put the extender on the 24, and it becomes a 35 because of the way the image circle works. So I love using the 24 and the 50 with the extender to get a little bit more reach.
Yeah.
But I will warn you now that if you hire one, you will be going to yourself, how can I max out my credit card to get one? Because you'll be doing stuff and you'll be going, I always wanted to do that and have it. Oh, I can.
Yeah.
And when I bought the first one, the 24, the guy in the shop said to me, it will forever change the way you take images. And it does. Because sometimes, yes, it's nice to have converging verticals, like when you saw in the mausoleum looking up and you've got it looming in. That's fine. But when you're ground level looking straight onto it, do you really want the building to do that? No. No. You really do start looking at stuff and going, yeah, I need to do this properly.
Julian, I've been in over there like eight years ago.
Yeah.
And they have modern houses. They have areas of really beautiful houses.
Yes.
And I find the food very good and mix, and you can. And I had a different experience because I just was grabbing people pictures, but they were willing. They were so nicely and friendly. There was no problem at all.
No, I think this is the thing with Uzbekistan, is because it's an up and coming destination, really, that it's not really thought about as a destination by people. Like I was asked at the beginning, where is it? Where is it?
Yeah.
So it's because people don't know about it.
Have you tasted the melon?
Yes. Oh, yes. It's like, wow.
It's the best in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just everywhere, aren't they? For sale. You just driving along the road. There's just huge mounds of melon that people are selling. The melon over there is unbelievable.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Julian, go ahead.
Julian, as I was looking at all your pictures, and you made a point that you were there early in the morning, which is evident by the lack of people, I assume, in almost all of your pictures, but also they gave me a feeling, and you mentioned wanting to bring out the shadows, but maybe it's just me, but I had the feeling I was looking at a picture that was taken in midday.
That's the problem, is that I was there in August, and so that's low season. So when the sun's up, just after sunrise, it's up. So you've not got a lot of time at all.
Yeah. I was looking for the golden hour or whatever they referred to, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I know. And when I sent the pictures to the publisher, she came back to me and said, "Oh, he sent us the best pictures." And I thought, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Oh, well, we don't think you sent us the best pictures." I was furious. I thought, I sent you what you asked me to do, and I've done what I can with the light I can. And I said to her, like you've just said, it's like, where's the golden hour? And I said to her, I've gone in August. And you have to understand that August, young lady, is very harsh sunlight. Therefore, you're not getting like you're seeing on my website, where you've got that golden hour. So therefore, if you need me to come back, I'll come back. But I'm really sorry, at the end of the day, you're dealing with sunlight that's really harsh. So therefore, sorry. So I'm hoping to go back in, I'm waiting to hear back, actually.
To be
I'm a
sure,
travel-
I'm not like the lady finding fault. I was just curious on how.
No. I mean,
Plus.
it's an absolute valid point, because that was, it was good to visit there, but I mean, it was the wrong time of year, but it was the only time that I could go, to have that amount of time available to me. But I'm hoping to be there at the end of September, running a photography tour, if people will go. If they're not too afraid of flying to that part of the world. I mean, it's safe. It's safe. It really is safe there. But if I'm not getting people, then I'm just going to go on my own, and actually be on my own. And I've got enough contacts through actually because the travel agent that I've asked, they know me because they help organize part of the trip, and they know what I want. And I know people, and I also know the tourism ambassador for Uzbekistan, who can organize things for me to get into places early. So I'd like to go to the Shahrizad Mausoleum at sunrise to get the golden light on the mausoleum. So, because the other thing that I had, which was very frustrating, is that I was being taken to places at the wrong time of day. So, for example, the Shahrizad being taken in 3 o'clock in the afternoon was just like, why are we going at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the sun's behind it? And having to basically reorganize things on the fly, which was quite stressful at times.
Julian, you mentioned that you're going to Turkey next week or something like that. Have you been there before?
No, well, basically what I'm doing is I'm flying on this Thursday, to Turkey, to then go to Kathmandu the same day. But then I'm coming back, and when I come back, I've got 2 nights in Istanbul just to go and have a look around.
Well, when you mentioned some words from Uzbekistan, the words that you learned, they're basically the same language as Turkish.
Yes, it's Turkic, isn't it? So.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine who's Turkish went to Azerbaijan, says, "Oh, they speak Turkish." I mean, they're all very similar. Uzbekistan, Turkestan, Turkey, their languages are very, very similar. I mean, all the words that you mentioned in Uzbek language is Turkish.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
that's what the lady wants me to do from Kazakhstan, is to go and photograph the Turkic countries. So she takes care of the Turkic, it's like something like the Turkic Institute and Library, something like that.
Yeah, because I was born and raised in Turkey. I mean, I speak Turkish well,
right?
But I'm curious if you're going to report on your trip to Turkey someday.
Well, the thing is, I'm only there for 2 nights, so I'm not going to get that long.
Yeah,
which is a shame. But no, I started to make a list of things to go and photograph, and it's on my list to do, for sure.
All right.
Because I know that Turkey is beautiful, you know, certainly like people are going to Cappadocia, but I know there's probably places that are beyond that as well.
All right.
So yeah, I'd definitely be going to Turkey.
Julian, I want to thank you. You gave us so much information. I learned a great deal, and I treasure that you shared this with us, and how much I would love to go. But at 88 years old, I don't think I could handle a trip like that. But I have what you think I could?
It's not like, for example, going to, say, Mongolia, where I think you probably not necessarily struggle, but it would be difficult. He is more geared up to tourism. And you're not having to walk huge amounts of kilometers getting to places. It's all relatively, you know, by the roadside, etc. The only thing you'd be having to deal with is any, you know, if you picked up a travel bug somewhere, that's the only thing. But otherwise, yeah, could you handle it? I'm sure. Yeah.
So I have a question. I have a question about the architecture, because it's just absolutely gorgeous, and we've seen it from other countries, the such a very similar. I was very curious that most all openings or even a window is curved. There weren't any sharp angles. Did you get any information about why that? And I know it's ancient style.
No, I didn't. I mean, it was the only place that I had a guide starting to explain things. He
Mhm.
spoke in a very heavy Uzbek accent, and he caught me at the wrong time because
Yeah.
I went on to Registan Square twice in the evening, and it was the place I really wanted to go to. And I'm arriving on the square, and this guy just comes across, "Hello, my name is Jasser," and he started talking. I'm thinking, "Go away, I want to take photos." And it's kind of like, and I wanted to be with him, but I needed to do my job.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
it's like where they've set something up, and it's not what I need. So that's why I'm going back again, either with people or on my own, because then it's my doing and not somebody else. But I've got, for example, Jasser's phone number, who works on Registan Square. And I know that I could go to him and say, "I'm coming back, can you help me?" And he would help me in a lightning bolt, which is good. That's a good thing that I took back, with lots of contacts.
The patterns in their artwork, whether it's on architecture or a plate or a door, they're just absolutely gorgeous. And I've seen this and studied it for a long time. Why?
Yeah, now I have a question.
Wait,
I know it
wait,
wasn't your focus.
Let me finish.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Did you ever consider why there's not a photograph, there's not a picture of a person, there's not a picture of an animal?
Because I think in the Muslim culture, you're not allowed.
Yeah, do you know why?
No, but I know that there's obviously been some problems in the past with the depiction of, for example, Muhammad. That's why they like here in France a couple of years ago. Well,
yeah.
Why they do? I don't know why they don't.
Okay, from my studies, I learned that Allah is the highest, and that's why they bow and they pray. That's the highest, and there's to be nothing else that interferes with their religion and Allah.
Yeah.
I had a question. It was not your focus, but is there anything in the way of wildlife that's of interest that you're aware of in that country?
There probably is, but I wasn't there for that, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
But I know that there probably is, but it's just it wasn't something that I went there to concentrate on, so I couldn't tell you.
Of course.
But I know that there probably would be, certainly in the mountains, I would imagine.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I love your passion for what you do. I can see it, I can feel it in your photographs, the way you compose on the fly. I like that. It was exciting to see. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, it is a power. I love it. You know, it's just that the things that I missed with the interactions with just traveling and meeting different people from different cultures. And you know, did I ever think that I would go to Georgia, go to a monastery to photograph some frescoes and end up drinking shots with a monk? It doesn't just. And that's the things that make it, you know, when I first met all of you, I was hardly on the photography club circuit, certainly in Britain, because I live in France. And now people want me talking about stuff. And it's great because I'm now thinking, oh, now I know how to leverage that. And, you know, but it's great, you know, and I know that going to Nepal, I haven't learned any Nepalese at the moment, but I will do. And I know it's going to get me into trouble somewhere. But that's great because then it means you get these, you know, the stories that then go behind the images to do things.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm a happy. I'm very, very happy behind the lens, taking pictures of people and you know, coming against the encounters. Actually, the story I didn't tell you was in Fergana City. When I met the mayor of Fergana City, I had to do a press conference. And afterwards, well, but just before it, I was trying to learn how to say, it's nice to meet you. So it took me a while, but it's Tanish Ganandan Harsanman. And
Yeah, yeah.
so you know, it's a mouthful. And so when I met the mayor, it's like, Assalamu alaikum. It's like, oh, you speak Uzbek? It's like, oh, a little. And so, you know, a few exchanges here and there. And afterwards, he said to me, you speak so well, I think we'll find you a local girl to marry. So,
Well, you should get a lot of proposals on this trip.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
I've warned
Yeah.
my guide in Nepal, it normally gets interesting. So, but no, but that's the thing is, I think the problem with a lot of people in general, and probably photographers as well, to a certain extent, I would say, is that we go to a country and the immediate thing is, do you speak English? And I think that's not a good thing. So when I arrived in Georgia just over a week ago, my guide picked me up at the airport and, you know, he speaks perfect English. And I said to him, so how do I say hello in Georgian? Oh, karma joba. And so he's like, oh, okay. You want to learn? It's like, well, why not? And he said to me, you need 2 words. You need to say hello and thank you. Karma joba, madloba. And I also learned Didi Madloba, which is thank you very much. And then just trying to think the other thing that I learned. I had 3 words, I think it was. Oh, goodbye, Nakvandis. But they've got that we went to a metro station, and they've got this thing whereby it's a combination of the French R and the Italian R, where you've got this where you have to go like this to get to a word. So you've got the ch, like in French, where you're doing rouge or entièrement, the ch. But in Italian, you've got the r. So you have to go with the throat and then the tongue. But that's, again, it makes it more interesting because people, as soon as you want to learn their language, then they open up to you. And that's the key.
A whole lot better than just if you're not being understood to start talking louder.
Well,
Which is what often happens.
That's what, yeah. So do you speak English? It's like, yes, it's difficult at times. But the thing is,
Sure.
if you take the trouble and the effort, the barrier just goes
Mhm.
and falls down.
Mm.
And you get so much more out of people. And it's not difficult. For example, saying hello in Uzbek, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. And they're like, oh, assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. And then salamat bowling. It's, you know, it's quite easy. Rahmat is quite difficult. There's a way of doing it. I can't do it. But I was told there's like the kh and the sound is like, fine. My friend was trying to teach me, but yeah. But I think if you make the effort, that's when things get more interesting.
Right, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
because it's just saying, do you speak English? They're just going to go, yeah, you know. But it's like, if you come up to somebody, like, assalamu alaikum, oh, alaikum assalam. Kayır dansis, membretanya danman. Yakşı misis, yakşı, sizce, zır. See? Then that was those little things of saying, where are you from? Kayır dansis, kayır dansis. Men Britannia danman. Men Britannia danman. Which means I'm British.
I'm from British.
Yes.
Did you get any impression of their attitudes toward the West?
I knew that things are not fair with elections in Uzbekistan, and I didn't want to say anything.
Mhm.
I thought, if I'm going to, I need to let them tell me. So at the end, I was talking with Hayot, who I'm still in contact with, and he said to me about it. And I said, I know it's not fair here. What can you do? It's difficult because I'm not going there to do that type of thing.
Of
So
course.
it's because I look at it like this. It's very easy to come to a country and make it look negative. If you think with America, how easy it is to make it look negative. Same with France, the same with Britain. It's very, very easy to come to your country and make it look negative. I don't want to do that. That's not what I do. My ethos is to go to a country and make it look as beautiful as I can. On Sunday, a week ago yesterday, I had to do a media interview for Georgia, for Georgian tourism. And they asked me, and I said to them at the end, I'm here to make your country look as beautiful as it is. And that's what you should do when you go over there. I think you need to be aware of the bad, just to know that it's there, but you mustn't concentrate on it. You need to be mindful of it, but not make it the priority, if you know what I mean. You're a visitor, you're a guest. You don't go in a guest's house and make a problem. So, for example, is it safe? Yes, there's lots of police. There's tourist police specifically there for us tourists. So they are there patrolling around, and they will speak English and several other languages as well. They are there to make your life comfortable, and they do. It does feel much safer without them. Well, with them, sorry. Yeah. So yeah, but it is a police state. It is a police state.
But so you felt safe there, though?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Never had a problem. Never had a problem. I've had more problems in Paris than I've had in Uzbekistan. And I will say to you now, with the things going on in Moscow and Russia, there's obviously Russia is getting a bad rap at the moment. And what I've done with my daughter is she said, I don't like Russians. And I've had to say to my daughter, you have to distinguish between the Russian people and the president, because they are two different things. The Russian people are really nice. And when I've been to Moscow, and I've been twice, I never had a problem, and I felt safer in Moscow than in Paris. And that should tell you something. But also you're very mindful when you go to Russia that it's Russia, that the rules are different, that you don't start saying this, that, or the other, because it's not your country to do that. This is the thing you need to be aware of when you travel to some of these countries. Be aware it's there, but don't get involved. I had many discussions with my guide in Georgia about Russia, and he was on like the line of where my daughter was a few weeks ago, and I'm thinking, I know, but I think you're probably tarring the whole Russian people with a brush, which is a little unfair. But I understand for them it's a bit different, because obviously they've been bombed by Russia. On yesterday morning, we're driving back to the airport, and he said, oh, you see this area up here? This was all bombed by the Russians. And it's not that long ago either. So yeah, I think you just need to be aware of these things, but you just also, you are sensitive to some of these things, and you know what not to say. Be diplomatic.
Julian, on that note,
Yeah.
It was wonderful. I just thought
Very
it was a great
interesting.
presentation, very interesting, and I really hope you come back.
Yep.
After
So
your
do
next
I.
few trips.
I mean, I hope I come back from my next destination.
Or come in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got enough air miles. I've got over 500,000 now.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, I'll be putting out a email invitation in a couple of months, and I hope there's a little break in your travels that you can return. because it was a fascinating evening for sure.
That's
Yeah.
no problem. I'm sure that the next 3 weeks are going to be eventful.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
hope you
going.
find Shangri-La.
Well, I'm going to Upper Mustang, the Kingdom of Low.
You're looking
Which
for
apparently
it.
is very, very special place to go to. Apparently, so. And I'm being taken into somewhere where the public are not allowed to go, is what I've been told.
Mhm.
Well, we definitely
So-
want to see that.
Yeah.
So I'm
Be
sure it's,
interesting.
gonna, sure it's going to come back with stuff. Absolutely sure.
Well,
Great.
thank you so much
Thank you.
for this.
Yeah.
Thank-
And
Thank you.
as they say down south, y'all come back.
Oh.
Hey,
All right.
I would do my American voice, but you probably wouldn't invite me back.
go for it.
Go for it. Well, I know I did a club in Florida. I said, oh, you know, they talk like that down in Alabama, don't they?
Oh, geez. Yeah. Oh, Florida special. Don't.
Okay,
Well, my mum lives in Florida. She lives in
Oh.
Land O'Lakes. So,
okay.
Oh.
but I think that again, I think if you find people's sense of humor as well, that's always good.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks
Thank you
again,
very
Julian.
much.
Safe
No
travels.
problem.
Thank you,
Bye.
Julian.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
You too. Have a
Have
good night.
Good night. Good morning.
It's like 20 past 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
All
Good
right.
night.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, but who's the treasurer?
Oh, yeah,
By the way.
Margaret,
Yes,
do you have
Yeah.
Julian's address?
I do. I have it from the last time. That Jules at
122.
hotmail.com.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's because sometimes people send it to my other one. It's like, no, not that one. It's the other one. So yeah, the Jules122 at Hotmail.
It's Jules122 at hotmail.com.
That's the one, Margaret.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
And
you.
it's with PayPal.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, you won't get rich on an honorarium, but at least you can do that.
My richness comes from talking to nice people like yourselves. That's where it comes from.
I'm sure I appreciate you coming,
Thank you.
being with us.
Thank you, Julian.
Thank you, Julian.
Thank you.
Okay,
Well,
I guess we're all ready to say goodnight.
Yep.
Let's
Okay.
I
go.
had a question, just a minute. Anybody
Yeah.
go to S4C?
What?
Anybody go to the meeting of S4C in Palmdale?
Oh, Palmdale?
Oh, the PSA meeting?
It's a PSA, it's S4C meeting, yeah,
I think Don and Emily were going to attend.
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
well, I guess we'll try to say goodnight. Julian's gone.
No,
Any
I'm
last
still here.
comments? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.